Now, I would like to turn to our first guests. Thanks for your patience while we blather on about what's going on, but that's our job here. And welcome to part of that blather, actually. The proposed development, it's written as proposed, but this is a development that is kind of underway already, right? At the CHA. Some people are nodding.
Yes.
Pull that, get closer to that mic, yeah.
It's at the point where it would be approved for actual development. So they have outlined their plan of what they want to put across.
That was John Quirk. I'm going to say we've got 4 people around here. You're not going to be able to tell their voices unless I tell you who they are. John Quirk just spoke. Next to him is Kelly Vieselman. Is that correctly said? I'm sorry. Stephanie Hayes comes next, and then Amy Miller. Thanks everybody for coming on. Let's hear your voices, and when you say good morning, let's hear you say.
All right. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. We need to get you closer to the mics. Is what that test was
John,
about.
how long have you lived?
Good morning.
Good morning.
John, how long have you lived at the Carolyn Hedger Apartments?
Since July of 2008.
So 8, 9
almost
years.
10 years.
Okay.
Great.
And this all our controversy, our movement began when there was an email from Alderman Moore that not all of us get, but it was picked up by Neighborhood News and the Tribune to the effect that there would be a substantial alteration of our senior housing at the corner of Devon, Broadway, and Sheridan, and that our community room and our lunchroom would be affected, and so on. And we started out really with only about 5 people meeting at a coffee house, with help from a field organizer from Jane Addams Senior Caucus.
Jane Addams Senior Caucus, good organizers.
Since that time, the movement has grown to dozens and dozens of people, as well as neighbors, people who live in the area adjacent to the property, and local businesses located throughout the ward.
All right, and we also have another neighbor of yours from the Carolyn Hedger Apartments. Stephanie, how long have you been there? Welcome.
Welcome. I've been there almost 4 years.
Almost 4 years.
Right.
And similarly, what John just described, you heard about this around the same time that
Right.
an email came to some people describing something. Now, there are 2 phases to this, it seems like, because they were already doing work on the building that is separate from this development that includes a Target and affecting the community center, et cetera, et cetera.
There was a complete remodeling of the entire building down to even every window in the place, and it's a 26-story building.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
With units.
Right.
Yeah, and we're fighting to keep public land public, not for profit. We don't want a Target. We don't mind more affordable housing because Rogers Park does need it.
Thank you.
Well, they do.
Yes,
But
we
we
do.
don't need a Target. We don't need a big box store.
Now, I mean, there's not room for the size of a Target that normally exists.
They're going to make a small one.
They'd make a small one. And when you have met with the representatives or the developers or even the representatives from Target, have they said why they think this is a good site for them to develop? Are they counting on the students or are they counting on you guys to spend your money there?
They were
Well,
talking.
ahead.
Everybody, really.
Everybody.
They intend to draw from everybody and to have apparel and some food and so on and so forth. So they describe it as a quick stop and go type of
Gotcha.
operation.
Gotcha.
And if I may, the representative we talked to said she'd been looking at Target has been looking at Rogers Park for years.
This is Amy Miller speaking now,
Sorry.
also a neighbor, not in the property, but neighbor
right,
to
right
it.
behind it.
Right.
Yes.
And
so
very much about to have a child.
hopefully not on the
Congratulations.
radio.
We can handle it.
So they said they've been looking in Rogers Park for years, and there are plenty of open storefronts, completely undeveloped, ready to become crafted
Empty
exactly as
spaces
they want it.
even.
There's a lot of empty spaces up and down Devon and other parts of the ward. So it begs the question, why this spot? What is it about public housing land that they're suddenly interested in when, if they've been poking around the neighborhood for years, they haven't wanted other properties of similar size and opportunity?
Well, as Stephanie said, you don't want it on on public land, commercial interests on public land. What is there any history that says this is okay to do, and that they point to and say, but it worked here, or something like that? Go ahead.
I think that this is an example
This is
of
the fourth voice you're hearing, Miss Kelly.
Hi. So I think this is an example of a public-private partnership that now the CHA is legally allowed to enter into. And they have done this in other parts of the city where they've built, I believe it was a Mariano's and a Target on public housing land before they actually replaced the housing, which is problematic. And here what they want to do is lease public housing land for 99 years to a private developer who would build a Target and a mixed income development.
And what guarantee?
99 years renewable.
And what guarantee is there that any of those units will be so-called affordable units, or for that matter, senior units?
So they're saying that 66 of the units would be public housing, so affordable, subsidized, and then the rest would be market rate. And that's actually something we've talked about. We believe if it's on public housing land, that a large majority should be public subsidized housing. That's the mission of the Housing Authority, not Target.
66 of new units?
Yeah, there'd be 111 units, and 60% would be affordable housing, and 60% would be affordable housing, and 40% would be market rate, that is thousands of dollars rent.
Okay, so I was at a meeting Monday where a lot of you were talking, and the neighbors got a chance to actually draw out their preferences for uses of that land, et cetera. And I was wondering, what are the next steps, Carolyn, Stephanie, if you know, next steps to your organizing after that Monday night meeting? Where do you go from here?
We would like to get a meeting with the developer and the alderman and say, let's go back to square one. Let's start all over again with the community and the residents' input, because we got nothing.
So what are chances of that?
Well,
Did you hear that? Did you hear that sigh, people?
Alderman
That's the
Moore,
sigh of an organizer facing.
Alderman Moore is just, he kind of ignores us. We asked a few months ago for a meeting.
So he did hold a meeting once, right?
Yeah.
Way early. I know that. Or
We
some.
had two with him.
Okay.
Right? Yeah.
But I think the meetings only happened months after. So the proposal was public in June, and he didn't meet with residents until January.
Right. It
So-
took him that long.
If you were to get a meeting with the developer, what would be the top three things in your list that you would like the developer to do at this point?
Well, we would really like to see a satellite senior center in our property. We'd like to keep our garden space so we could sit outside and barbecue, not go up on the second floor. And we also we're not against housing if they can make it all affordable housing.
And of
This
course,
is our dream.
so those sound like three really good goals. And of course, with affordable housing, a big part of it is in the details about how one defines affordable, which is a discussion for another day, because the city tends to favor more of a working class, middle class income structure rather than folks who really need it the most. When you first heard about this, you already were in a building that was getting rehabbed. So there's obviously been some disruption, but you were hoping for a better outcome once it was all done, right? Have you had to move during this rehab yourself?
everybody eventually will have to move, and most people have moved now, although there are still substantial units to be moved into. But every apartment in the building is being remodeled.
So how did that transition work for you? Because that might be a
Horribly.
sign, because it's the
It
same
was
developer,
horribly.
right?
Same developer, yeah.
It was the same developer, and they would start at 7:30 in the morning, and they would work straight through till 5, and they were there on Saturdays and Sundays, so we had no quiet. The noise and the dirt. I mean, the dirt was just unbelievable.
As the developers, I know the community garden space and the ground level is really important. And at one point, the green space was going to be put up on the top of the roof of the mid-rise, and now they're talking about something on the second floor. I don't know how you do a garden on the second floor, but unless there's some plaza or patio or something like that.
We had a very huge problem in the building. The 3rd tier and the 5th tier went without heat for all
And
those
that's what got it
cold
in the
days
newspapers.
yeah, that's what. Yeah, and they
And-
they didn't want us to have the meeting at the building. They called the police
Because it was
on
too
us.
cold?
They called the police on us.
This is
Oh yes,
What?
and grab bars. We've been fighting for grab bars.
grab bars inside your units.
Right.
In the bathrooms or all
In the
over?
bathrooms.
Yeah.
So has the developer said anything about what would happen to your green space while this new development was taking place?
No.
So there would be probably at least a 2 or 3 year gap where you have no community garden space.
And no community room on site. You want to?
Tell them what they want, where they want to put the community room.
Oh yeah, they want to put the community room about a block and a half west on Devon. Now some of these residents can't walk at all. They're in wheelchairs, or they can't see, or they take care of their ailing spouses. You know, they come down and get the food for them and take it up. Well, if it's 10 below zero, you can't go out. If it's 90 degrees, you can't go out.
So I'm a little confused here. So clearly they didn't check with you guys
No, not at all.
before all of this, and you have got some allies here in your neighbors. Also, Jane Addams Senior Caucus, and also I know One North Side
And
is
local businesses, the Chamber of Commerce.
and so. What needs? I'm just not sure because I know that the sledgehammers are in motion, and what people need to know how if they want to support you, because those apartments have been part of the neighborhood for many decades, many decades, and in fact, Loyola University's nursing school did some really great work in that building also for many decades. Did a lot of help, provided help to the residents. I don't know if it's still as strong now as it used to be. I don't think it is, yeah. That's a too bad of a loss. So go ahead, what were you going to say? I know you've got...
So next step, this hasn't been formally approved by the city yet. So it will go likely in May to the Plan Commission and the City Council. So we definitely will need support there. We
Wow.
need people to be at City Council saying, no, we can't be selling off our public housing land and to a private entity. And we have meetings every month, sometimes more than once a month. So our next meeting is
Our next meeting is Wednesday, the 26th. It's going to be at Bar 63.
Okay,
They donated their space for us
nice.
because we're hoping to have a larger crowd.
What time is that meeting?
It's at 6 o'clock.
6 p.m. So that's the former Hamiltons. When I
Yes.
was a Mundle Bundle, we called it Hamiltons.
Among
Mundle Bundle. That's what we call Mundeline students. Back in the day.
And despite all appearances to the contrary, the alderman keeps insisting that he hasn't made a decision yet, that he wants to listen to the community. He hasn't done so yet, but let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Let him hear from the community. If he indeed has not yet made up his mind, then we encourage all of the neighbors in Rogers Park and Edgewater as well, and surrounding neighbors, to call the alderman, to send him a postcard, to show up to a meeting, and let him know that we do not want this the way it's proposed.
Where do people go to find information about this so that they can look at it while they're calling the alderman? Do you have a website or?
we do have a website.
Okay.
The website is I'm going to have to get back to you on. I think it's NoRogersParkTarget.org.
Okay, well,
That's
we're
it.
going to make sure that you got it in front of you, Tom.
Is that
Well, I know that's the Facebook site.
yeah.
Okay, no Rogers Park Target.
.org.
I'm sure you folks know this, but for our listeners' sake, to provide some historical context, your apartments are named after quite an interesting woman.
Yeah.
Dr. Carolyn Hedger championed the rights of health concerns of workers in the meatpacking industry in the 1920s. So we have, and it's considered to be the most diverse senior housing project of the whole CHA system. So, once again, Rogers Park comes roaring through. We have a senior center that's named after a pretty important labor and health organizer, and in a neighborhood that we value for its diversity, and we'd like to see continue.
And we have an alderman who is the head of the housing committee.
Yeah.
So this should be the first thing that people understand when you are able, when you have the power, as he does, to force a discussion about what rights your tax dollars have to house people or not. He should be at the forefront of that, not coming up at the tail end. Dear Alderman. So let's make the housing committee work the way it's supposed to for all of us. So good luck, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's more than luck. I know you know that now. It's a lot of work, right?
Right.
We should do a quick round of applause of encouragement to John Quirk, Stephanie Hayes, Amy Miller, and Kelly for your good organizing. Thanks for joining us in live from the Heartland.
Yeah, and good work. NoRogersParkTarget.org. Look it up. Call the alderman. Ask for a meeting. Ask for explanation on how this could be happening to seniors, and for all of us who may find ourselves needing public housing in our lifetimes. We should all be aware of this and be on it. Self-determination does not come without trying.
And if you can, try to come to our meeting Wednesday night.
Thank you.
It
6
will be
p.m.
very meaningful and hopefully powerful.
Far
You're
out.
listening to Live from the Heartland at 88.7 FM, coming today from the corner of Lunt and Glenwood Avenue in Chicago, in the great Rogers Park, just steps from the Fresh Coast. We will get a little musical interlude from downtown while we switch to our next guests to talk a little bit about Earth Day and the Science March and some other stuff that you ought to be knowing about on this
All the
lovely
good
weekend.
stuff. All the
Take
good
it away,
stuff.
Nolan.